Andres, are we going to Thundercat? When is that show?
Ooh.
It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
So you're telling me in November I'm gonna go to Canada to go watch my favorite band Good Kid play. I'm gonna go to the Saturday after Thanksgiving or the week after.
Saturday, like the direct Saturday.
And then the next day I have another concert.
Day
on
after Black
Sunday.
Friday.
I don't know if I can handle that.
I mean, it's if you want. Like,
I definitely.
I bought a ticket for Alex and he fucking moved away. So
I never sent you the money. I need to send you the
Whoa,
money.
really?
Yeah, he definitely did that.
I had no idea. Damn, boy.
I thought it was October.
So I have an extra ticket. No, all the concerts I have tickets for are all in November for some reason.
Yeah, super
That's
weird.
wild.
I wanted
Okay.
to go to another one, and then I realized that a ticket I had bought like over a year ago was rescheduled for the same day, and it was like, all right, then I guess I'm not
Damn.
going to this concert
This is
because
a
I've
good-
been
this-
planning.
This is a
You
good
got
banter.
fucked
Who
a
was
little
it,
bit.
Andres? Tell us who it was.
I'm going to see Haru Nemuri. She's like a Japanese. It's kind of like, it's really strange because she mainly almost like raps or spoken words over half the
Poetry rap?
songs. Kind of like it.
That's badass.
That's pretty cool.
But-
Whoa, she's our age.
Is she? Fuck. I never
She's
knew
either
that.
our age or a year older.
It's pretty. I mean, it's like kind of popular on niche music places. Was going to see, even though I'm not a huge fan of them, I just think it'd be really cool to see them. The band Glass Beach.
Oh,
Um,
that could be cool.
Why do I
they're
know that name?
they're like
I posted them.
super poppy.
Yeah.
They're like they're like vaguely associated with the emo scene, and people call them post emo, and it's just like, all right, man, whatever. Like,
They're like emo musical theater. It's basically what it is.
yeah. So along the lines of, they're like, if actually I know nothing about Say Anything, but the way people describe Say
The band or the movie?
Anything, the band.
Both.
That was used to be my favorite band, and then
Yeah. I know people like to compare them to music theater, so
the last two albums have definitely been more performancy, if that makes sense. But God, it is a real boy, was a real boy. Both of the two separate albums. God damn, that's like top tier middle school Alexi music. That I
for
still
some
listen to.
reason I know a decent amount of Say Anything lore. So like
It's great.
when you said that, it was just like, yeah, those are two separate. I'm aware of this for some reason.
I'm making
even
sure.
though I've never seen the music, or even though I've like hardly ever listened to them.
Oh, it's so good. It's so fun.
Yeah,
for me.
they're great.
They-
I mean,
We talked about this before. They were on Scrubs. That's how I found out
Yeah,
about 'em.
yeah.
excuse me for 1 second. I think I have a bug in my coffee that I want
Leave
to
this
get
in.
out.
Leave this in. Leave this in. Go.
I'll be right
Go
back.
fix
Go.
it. Stop staring at this.
You go
Oh my God.
take your bug out of your coffee.
Say Anything is with Max Beans, it just kind of really, it does whatever he really is feeling at the time of the album. And so there's one, I can't, Majora, I think is the name of the album. And I just wasn't feeling it too much. And then the next album, the same thing. Perma with the band with his wife is pretty good. And I've read some of his comics. He writes comics.
Mhm.
He did a series called Polarity, where like it's very well drawn. It's drawn by Trad Moore, one of my favorite artists. and super pretty, super beautiful. And then he did a comic where it's Magneto and Superior Spider-Man, where he's Dr. Octopus in Peter Parker's body. Spoilers. For comics from multiple years ago. And it's Magneto just talking about the Holocaust and stuff. And it's like very much, as a Jew, Max Beavis really feels it.
Yeah,
like,
that sounds about right.
Very on brand for Max, not in a bad way.
Whatever it was, it's gone. And I'm still drinking it, for the record.
Ladies and gentlemen, Manuel Prince.
Hello.
Soft golf club.
Soft golf club.
Did we get off say anything else or say anything? Because they're great.
And
you're right, Andres. I do think that that's like the best way to describe them. There's a very sort of like musically. I mean, most people think of their like one big song that starts off with like the Barbara Ann chord. I forget what it's like. It's a dominant like seventh chord, but it's like the da 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 da. Oh, when I do. You know that song?
I mean, yeah.
Dude, for us, you sound super auto-tuned. It's pretty cool. It's gonna be great for like listeners, but it's super fun for me to you sound like Optimus Prime trying to drop a beat.
My bad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely know that song and what you're talking about, but
yeah, I couldn't name it if I tried, but
in the glory of name of the glory of love or something like that.
Oh, you're talking about saying Alive in the Glory of Love. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Glass Beach. That's why I had no idea what you were talking about.
Oh,
no. That style of like very enthusiastic
yes
musical, like that's sort of what Glass Beach's vocals are like.
Alexi found a new band.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're like screamed and stuff. It's like It's a little less.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they do pull from Say Anything a little bit.
That's pretty.
I mean,
cool,
part of the reason
actually.
I wanted to see South Beach. I wanted to fly to Florida. The main reason I wanted to go see Glass Beach was because they're kind of just like the only semblance of an emo scene in Los Angeles proper, kind of. I'm just like, for the life of me, I cannot find like a emo act from California that is not from Los Angeles proper that is not Touche Amore or even Joyce Manners from Torrance. Like they're from from South, like
South Beach,
I always,
of course.
my go-to is Touche Amore, for the record.
All these local Los Angeles bands keep having to be secretly from South Beach, Florida, and I'm pissed off about it.
There's only like one that like isn't really a part of the emo scene. They're just associated by name. I don't even know how they're associated, but they're like pretty close to Glass Beach, I think. Or they like are friends with them, called Kara's Walk
cool.
Home, and they just like don't play shows right now. So
I love Kara's Walk Home. I didn't know that they're from
I'd love to
Florida.
see them. No, they play in LA.
I understand now. Never mind.
If I was in Florida, goddamn, there's a lot of emo bands from Florida.
No, he's just he's not doing a bit. He's just an idiot.
I'm just an idiot. Yeah, that's just the way.
Andres, did you know Glass Beach does shows with Home Is Where?
Yes.
What
Not
the hell?
Norway.
Yummy.
No, that's and the first one's gonna be in Jacksonville, Florida, according to this poster.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my god. Let's
If
go
you
to
look-
Florida.
If you can
With all the
probably
sponsor
catch
money we
them.
made, let's all fly to Florida.
Oh, beautiful idea. All
Beautiful idea.
0 cents.
Home is
0
Where
points
and
here.
Harmony Woods are like kind of on the East Coast leg of the Glass Beach tour, so you like could probably maybe get a chance to see them, Manny. I don't know if they're leaving the South East Coast, but
I'm
like,
seeing here
I will make this happen. If
DC. DC's pretty close,
Hey,
right?
yeah, it's only about 2 hours out.
Philly, Brooklyn,
Brooklyn's 2 hours out. Yeah.
Columbus, Ohio.
Are they doing anything in Massachusetts?
Getting farther away. Detroit, Michigan, Massachusetts. Not seeing it on here. I posted it in our chat.
Oh my God! Wait, when is the DC show, or when is the Brooklyn show? When is that?
DC is the 21st of November. Brooklyn is 24th of November. Philly is
I'm
23rd
gonna-
of November.
Oh my God! I was gonna say I'm gonna book them for the 23rd at Wesleyan. I mean, I would pay them big money to show up at Wesleyan. For the record, not that you all
Manny
listen
would
to
pay
this,
them big
but
money.
well, no, I like organize concerts at Wesleyan, and I can get like $1,000, $2,000 for them if they want. So
Let
show
us
up.
know.
the
Cancel your other
Brooklyn
show. Come to this one.
the Brooklyn one
Yeah.
is sold out, by the way, and the DC ones, they're both sold out.
God damn it!
Maybe I kind of want to see Glass Beach if they're. Say Anything did a good show, honestly. They had a really good show. They
I mean,
they
you would
had,
probably actually enjoy Glass Beach.
Oh yeah,
They're-
from the 10 seconds
they're
I heard, this
very-
is for me.
Yeah, they're very melodic. They're very very fun. There's not a lot of dissonance in a lot of what they write in terms of like the actual notes. It's more about like the timbres that are used. It's like very emo punk rock. Like that's where the aggression comes from, but the actual melodies are gorgeous. Yeah. It's almost like video game music in a way.
I'm
like it's
excited
that
for this.
level. It's that level of like songwriting.
Oh, there's a song called Rat Castle.
Yeah.
It does feel like a video game. Okay. I saw Say Anything live, and they had Front Bottoms open for them, and the So-So Glows. So like 3 bands I knew were performing, and I was like, it was like my first concert, and I was like, wow, concerts are great. And I was like, as I've got to more, I'm like, man, I don't know half these fucking. I know one band here. Like this isn't how it usually works. I was very blessed that first time.
Yeah. I have a funny story about that. I actually saw I was going to see Animals as Leaders, which is like a technical metal band, like prog metal or whatever. And they had another act open for them that was I forget who it was, but they were a band that I didn't know about at the time that I like got really into afterwards. And like I just remember wishing that I knew about them before I saw them. I don't know if that's happened to you at all. I don't know if you like look up bands after the show, but
Yes,
I ended up doing that. Yeah.
Like even like the Front Bottoms, when I saw them, I knew one album out of their like 3, and so like 2/3 of the songs I don't know, and people were like singing, and like I remember I was there with Sebastian. He was like, "Oh, this is like my favorite song," and I'm like, I have no idea what I felt like I felt so lame, you know, like it just didn't feel cool. But then in contrast, when you go,
some people would call knowing the Front Bottoms discography lame. So.
they're good. They're good. I don't care what anyone says.
They're
like in
quite
contrast,
a big contentious band.
Really?
A little bit.
I like their music. He is a bit pretentious, but I don't know if he's contentious. Are we gonna tell me what's up with let's not do this. Let's not get deeper into this rabbit hole.
Contentious, huh?
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. We can segue because of the video game music sounding shit.
What a perfect segue we just had. Damn, we're good at this.
We're so good.
We're professional podcasters with all the money we made. And now we're
Yeah,
gonna go
we
to-
are.
We
got lots of money.
Look out, South Beach, Florida. Here we come.
We'll just whole transition from something we were talking about like 2 minutes ago.
We will have a live show at South Beach, Florida.
Exclusively South Beach, Florida.
Only South Beach, Florida.
The South Beach, Florida tour, where we perform in every venue available to us in South Beach, Florida.
There's probably a decent amount of clubs over there.
There's probably a decent amount. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm moving on. Because it's a 15-minute banter. We don't do too bad. Who knows when we'll actually cut into that.
Yeah, I don't.
This is a hard one today, isn't it, boys?
Yeah, the energy's kind of low.
Energy's low. I had a rough week.
I'm ready to talk about slimes.
Oh, God, you were the worst. Okay, so the topic for this week's podcast was, in general, the idea of asymmetrical gameplay. I looked up the official definition of it, that way I get better detail. Asymmetrical gameplay, multiplayer, is a type of gameplay in which players have significantly different roles or abilities from each other, enough to provide a significantly different experience of the game. So, in Among Us, the game most people know about, and one of the most popular games in the world at the moment, some people are traitors and they can kill people, and some people can't do that. So that's asymmetrical. That's two different things. Games like Left 4 Dead, where there's a team of human people that have guns and stuff versus a team of zombies that have special abilities, that's an asymmetrical game. You have two different teams with different abilities to achieve their objective. Another one, like, to put it a bit simpler, is Overwatch. Overwatch has classes, and each class has its own unique ability that the other classes cannot perform. Huh. That's another way of looking at it. So that genre of like hero shooter counts Overwatch, Apex Legends, while things like MOBAs like Dota and League of Legends also technically count, because this champion and this champion, they do have similar skills, but they are technically different. So it can be that thinly lined.
So then, like, do most RPGs fall into that category, or because you can be like job classes? Do job classes qualify that? Or
well, RPGs aren't really multiplayer.
Do you mean MMOs?
I'm thinking Final Fantasy 14 for the record.
Oh,
yeah.
MMOs would probably count then, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's the point of to finish reading this small paragraph on Wikipedia. In games with stronger elements of asymmetry, one player/team may have one gameplay experience or be in softly asymmetric roles, while the other player or team may be in drastically different ways with different mechanics, a different type of objective, or both. So again, Left 4 Dead, Dead by Daylight, where there's a killer and there's 4 survivors. What was that one, Andres, that we would play with Brian? Like Spies versus Mercs on Splinter Cell?
Oh, Splinter Cell Double Agent or something like that?
Yeah. Where, can you explain that one? I don't really remember it that well.
Splinter Cell Double Agent, I think it was Double Agent.
Probably.
There's one side where you were or like a guard almost with like guns, and it was
first person.
I don't remember if it was first person. It might have been third person.
I think specifically it was.
I don't think I ever played as that. Oh, no. Yeah, I definitely played as that. I'm pretty sure it was third person. But one group played as guards, the other group played as spies. The spies would sneak around the level trying to download data from various, like, I think there's 3 points. Yeah. And the most, you would just kind of go to each point and download, but you had to get close enough to do it. So you would either and the closer you were, the faster you could download. So if you wanted to, you could just like run in, download, then leave, or you could just try to find a place where
like a sweet spot
where you could download, and then it would bring attention to you, so they would go and just kind of play like hide and seek with you and then try to kill you.
So it's these kinds of games that I really love, because it's not just, oh, we're going to go play Monopoly. We all have the same objective, and when one of us gets an advantage, it's kind of just impossible to conquer that advantage. Things like that. But then there's other games like Halo, which is just like you all have the same guns, you have the same abilities. Halo 3, there was no you had like you can pick up stuff on the map, but they're generally available to everyone, and they're not innate to your character, which is like, okay, this is fair gameplay. This is skill winning versus skill. What I like about these games is it does both. Go ahead, Manny.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say. So does this factor into like PVE, like player character versus like area or like environment?
I guess
right?
that's
Is
when asymmetrical multiplayer does it always mean competitive multiplayer? Does it always mean you're playing against each other? And I don't think. I think, but from that previous definition where it's like, as long as you have some different experience of gameplay, then it's asymmetrical. So having a class that's like, hey, if it's us three, I'm support, Manny's tank, and Andres is damage dealer, we are technically having different experiences of gameplay. Like, okay, I don't have access to the Gatling gun that Manny has, but Manny doesn't have access to the sprinting that Andres has, and Andres can't heal people like I can. So therefore, by default, those are asymmetrical games.
So like
and
Borderlands and that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Where like your big abilities and your small buffs become who your character is. I think it's very loose definition, right? Like there's a lot of games here. I have a list that says there's 91 pages related to this category. And some of them don't seem to be super related, in my opinion. Like Counter-Strike. I guess your objective is different, right? One's defense and one's offense. But does that really count, right? Does that really count? Because then that means football is asynchronous. Asymmetric, whatever.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
it is.
There's different roles, though. Like...
That's, yeah, exactly.
I kind of want one team is defending, one is, like... opposing, whereas like I feel so pretentious because I was definitely thinking of soccer when you said football. And I was just gonna say like it's just people running around the field. They're both doing the same objective.
You wait till you start reading Blue Lock and you'll see how wrong you are. So I guess my point is gonna be like I don't really want to talk about these super like okay like there's a little bit. I wanted there to be like distinct differences in gameplay that we talk about. So like we played Crawl this week. Crawl is a multiplayer game where it's supposed to be meant to be local. Was how I speak words, and we did this thing where it is only local multiplayer, but through Steam you can do remote play, and it's laggy as all hell, but it's fun if it works. You each start in a room. The three of us start in a room together, and we were all humans, and then we fight to the death. Manny killed me and Andres, and then me and Andres come back as ghosts, and then Manny has to progress through the dungeon. And his goal as a human is to get to a level 10, go fight the final boss, and kill it. Our goal as ghosts was every room have an opportunity to hinder Manny's progress. So we can come back as a monster. One of three monsters we picked based on whatever god we worship, so like kind of like a class, but very loosely based. So we got to do. Manny walks into a room. There's 2 pentagrams. Andres and I come in and we start fighting him, and we slowly whittle away at his health until eventually Andres kills Manny, and now Andres gets to be the human, and etc. etc. And the fun part about this game is as Manny levels up as a human, we level up our monsters as ghosts. And then if Andres comes in and he levels up as a human, Manny gets to level up his ghost, and I get to keep doing mine. So like it keeps everything in a very fun, unique balance. And there's times where I just want to be the fucking giant spider monster that's slowly eating away Andres' health. And there's other times where I really want to go to the store and buy the magic sword, so when I actually do have to fight the final boss, I can actually deal damage. So it's this very like
you get out of the magic store and get bombarded with slimes.
Another thing you can do in this game is, as you're a ghost, you can passively you collect these little fart clouds that let you summon minions, and the minions are little slime balls. Manny bought a bunch of items that let his minion slime balls be stronger and have an extra one, so he would randomly just poop out slimes and kill Andres every single
It
time.
wasn't so random. It was literally every time I was looking at items in the shop and he was just collecting all the little token things, and as soon as I would leave, it was all four facing me, so...
We were definitely having some kind of fun.
Something that I think would be good to point out for listeners who didn't play Crawl is that there's always, like, in every room there's sort of an opportunity for the role of human and ghost to switch, because in every room there's a potential for the human to die.
There exists traps that like shoot out like fireballs. There exists a trap that's like a saw blade on a wheel that's flying around, and then you can just become like a crate, possess the crate, and then just throw yourself at the human. So there's tons of things that you can do. Go on, Manny. Sorry.
Yeah, and no, and that's right. And so, like, for example, I think the game started out with me being the human, and then a little ways through, on that same floor, the game is broken up into like different floors, where each floor sort of seems like a procedurally generated map with different rooms on the floor. And so throughout, like, I think on like the 5th room of the floor, I was killed, and then I forget who took over, but someone else took over, and we were still on that same floor. And so that's sort of how the game progresses, is like the role of human and ghost is constantly switching back and forth. And it was actually fun. It kept like the gameplay pretty fresh.
It keeps it interesting, and then even like if you go 2 floors without ever being human, you therefore are going to be the strongest monster. So then on the 3rd floor, your monsters have leveled up to a point where like you can kill them, and now you're going to be the one dominating that floor and slowly progressing a level. It's very, very smart, honestly. It's sad to me that the guy's kind of like, yeah, I'm done with the game. It doesn't really need anything else. Like, there's no online multiplayer. There's no like DLC for like. There's a point where I mean, we played it for like weeks at one point, and we kind of were just not bored, but I definitely was like, okay, I want more, because there's definitely like certain monsters that are like more fun than others. We used to be the little trap gnome that like his special ability was he threw bear traps, and you would just do 2 of them if you got lucky in the room, and you would just slowly erode like the surface that the human can walk through and then kill him. And it was just like, trap gnome is the worst to fight against, but it's the funnest to play. We love trap gnome. Trap gnome.
Yeah, trap gnome. It's pretty
Sorry,
cool. The
got
slimes
lost
are
in
my
trap.
favorite.
Fuck you. I had a lot of fun with it. I love these kind of games because it really gets to, you're constantly rethinking your strategy. Sometimes you're like, I don't really want anything in the shop. I'm just going to harass, let the other person level up, and that way I can level up for the next floor. And then hopefully get to the shop before they do. So there's this kind of strategy. Andres, how'd you feel about it, even though you were shit upon by slimes?
Talking about Crawl in specific, it was very fun, and I think I was thinking about it a little bit before and after about just the idea of asymmetrical gaming, and I find it's something where the main issue is usually balance. Like,
yes.
Yep.
And I think Crawl was definitely one of the more balanced. I definitely felt I was more at an advantage as a monster, but I think that's just kind of the point where you're supposed to be worn down as a human and not really have much turn to heal, or else nobody else would be able to play as the human. So I think it is definitely one of the more balanced ones that I've played. It was a lot of fun. I wasn't in a very fun attitude when I was playing due to outside reasons, but so getting bombarded with slimes was definitely eating away at me a little bit, but
I would like to publicly apologize for my overuse of slimes. I for the record,
eat a dick.
well, I mean, for the record, I do think that it was a little overpowered with the item I got, and
there is definitely an advantage to knowing and like reading and figuring out what build you want to play. As we played more, like in our group of 4, I remember Sebastian or someone else was like so good with the bow and arrow. They were just fundamentally understood how to aim it, and like they had a good item. And then I had instead of a dodge roll, I had a book that shot like the beholder laser beam out, and I knew how to play off that. So like you can really learn the game and how to play off your style, and it's very like that part where it's like, okay, I just bought 2 good items where I get an extra slime and they're super powerful, so I get a shit over Andres, and that's just gonna be how it is. And it's like, okay, cool. But it does reward knowledge. It isn't kind of just a throw yourself at it. It rewards strategy, and I love it. So sorry to interrupt you. I'll just go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very fun game. I think it's been on my Steam wish list for like years now, but mainly because I just don't buy games on my wish list anymore because I just don't play them. But
I think I have like 3 copies off Humble Bundle. Like it just comes in bundles that I like.
It's actually really fun.
So with 4 people and you all really want to win, it's so fun. It's I'm so glad we got to play it. I haven't played it in so long.
Definitely harkens back to like the arcade era and just that local co-op feel. So yeah.
Some of the other games, but if we're any more thoughts about Crawl, Manny, if you want to say anything, so I can just move on to the general topic of asymmetrical.
Yeah, Crawl was. I want to echo like basically everything Andres said. I was like really, while I was playing it, I noticed like the balance decisions of like having people switch between human and ghost pretty quickly. Like in every room, there's a possibility for it. In fact, multiple times a room if you have like slime saved up and stuff where you can launch them again. So the balance was gorgeous. I loved. I just like, you can imagine a scenario where Crawl is designed such that the changing between human and ghost is less frequent, and I think it would be really boring. It would be a lot of waiting around is maybe the way I would put it. Not boring, but there'd be a lot of waiting in between rooms that felt really weird, or maybe like if every floor you switched, I feel like that would be way less fulfilling. So shout out to the creator for like creating a really fast-paced, asymmetrical back and forth.
There's parts of Crawl too, like you're saying, and as you're like, so the floor, it can be like 1 or 2 rooms too big sometimes. Like just kind of like how it's laid out, like let's say there's always 5 in each room. Sometimes it's like 4 this way and like 2 this, like, and then that part sometimes you're playing and you're just like, yeah, we already explored here. Okay, you gotta go here. Like, okay, yeah. And then the ability of like each door has a question mark, so you know where to go to new stuff. You can do that. And some people just like sprint to the end of the floor. I always am like, okay, I'm gonna go to the next room because either I get more experience or I get more wrath from you guys getting more experience. So it's always worth it to me to keep going. But some people are like you were like, I'm here to level up my creature. I know I have enough wrath. I'm bailing the fuck out of here. I don't care anymore. And that's totally smart and valid, because I think we all 3 of us mentioned it, the leveling up at the same time as the humans is it's so cool, because then it's like, I'm not a human, boom, 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 I'm not leveling up, but now I have 2 top tier monsters, and so I'm fine. Like nothing can stop me this time, and I get to be a dragon and kill Manny with my lag fire. Like it's gonna be perfect. Like,
yeah, the fully upgraded monsters were like some of my favorite parts of playing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're just like really overpowered, and it's sort of fun actually to just yeah.
Just to establish the dynamic we were playing with, I definitely leveled up my monsters, or every one of my monsters first, and was definitely the lowest level at the end of the game. So.
Oof.
It's that balance is interesting, but I'm glad you guys liked it. I'd love to play again sometime because it's, again, such a blast. And then there's 2 other final bosses. I definitely think we got the hardest one. There's another one that's like a Hydra. That one's not. It's hard, but it feels more fair. It is kind of like we've understood. You go and you punch it more. And then there's one where it's like a giant is buried in the ground and only his hands and legs and head are coming out. So he's just kind of like, but like it's like buried in the sand and you're trying to fight a crab on your chest. Is how I can describe it. So it's real fun. The music I talked about before. Go listen to the soundtrack. Go listen to Torquata, I think is the name of the song, and that's my favorite fucking song off this album. It's so cool. If you don't pretend you're a minotaur stalking your prey, I don't know what you're doing with your life, because that's all I think about when I have that song going on. I'm just like walking around my house, like cleaning, just like sweeping like a madman.
One of the songs. Oh, go ahead.
Was it just my sound settings, or I couldn't hear any music when we were playing?
I don't know if that's a sound setting or if that's like Steam thing.
I heard music, and in fact, one of the songs I heard sounded like Blue Dabu Dee Dabu Die.
Yeah.
Eiffel, whatever.
Eiffel 45.
Yeah.
Oh, the first album I ever owned. That's actually the third album I ever owned. First album I ever owned was Britney Spears. The second was NSYNC, and then it was Blue Dabu Dee Dabu Die by Eiffel 95.
Well, I was playing without any music, so.
Damn.
I'm so sorry.
I think I definitely missed out a little bit.
It's good. The pixel art's good. The atmosphere's good. It's a phenomenal game, and I could talk about it forever, but I kind of want to move on to the other ideas of these games. I think Crawl does really fun is, like Andres was saying, it's an old arcade style game, so like you're sharing screens. I think nowadays, like a game I like to play is Dead by Daylight. There's 4 survivors, 1 is a killer. You're not seeing what the killer's seeing. You're not seeing what your other survivors are seeing, so like you are kind of alone. And it is a horror game, so that kind of, that's a good idea. Amplifies that you're alone and you're like, okay, I'm by myself, I need to solve this, and now the killer's chasing just me, blah blah blah. But something about the idea of you're watching everything that happens. When Manny's a human, I'm watching all of his decisions being made, and I can figure out how to counter them as he's doing it in real time, is really fun and interactive. But then it's also like, okay, I went and explored this area. When the killer follows me, I just need to make a right here, and then a left, and then I can jump through this window, and then he won't be able to catch me. Like, and those are, different rewarding experiences, but it's real fun when you're both on the same screen, or all 3 of us are on the same screen.
Yeah, I thought that element of it was actually really interesting, because I'm a loner, for the record. And I don't play a lot of multiplayer games. In fact, I think historically I've played less multiplayer games than like everyone in our immediate friend group. So that's just like that's like the vibe I get. It's just sort of like I haven't played a multiplayer game with anyone else except like Final Fantasy 14, but it's not like I'm talking to those people verbally, right? Like I'm like typing to them or whatever. I haven't like sat and played like a quote unquote LAN game with someone since I was like, I don't know, since I guess we last played Civ, but I haven't played Civ with you all in like forever, So that was like that was a really interesting experience for me, because not only was I able to like enjoy the gameplay, but I was also able to like get a little bit into each of your psyches, to be able to like experience that. So I thought that it was really cool to have that immediate feedback of like, ooh, like look what they're doing, and try to counter it and try to balance that. Whereas like in most other multiplayer games that I play, I don't have that experience, because I'm not like seeing every other action the other person's doing.
Yeah. there's a point where like the game is just two buttons and an analog stick, you know, attack, special ability, and then in Final Fantasy 14, I imagine you have dozens of abilities, different this, different items, blah 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 blah. So now it's like by simplifying it, you can absorb at what everyone's doing without kind of getting overwhelmed and needing this depth of knowledge of like, oh, they're playing this class with this item, therefore they're probably going to do this. Okay, I can help them by doing this, this, and this in the raid or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you know what other game we played recently that actually worked out well like that, I guess? Although it's not really asymmetrical, so maybe I shouldn't talk about it. But it was a game we played at your party, Andres. What game was that?
Oh, 1-2 switch?
No, the next party. It was like in the late evening.
Oh, Gang Beasts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's another like kind of arcade style game of you all share a screen, and if that defines arcade style, I don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, but it had simplified controls, right? And so it's not necessarily speaking
you
to
can
the
do
asymmetrical.
This. How much can you do with this tool? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly. And it allows for you to look at the way that other people are reacting to the situation immediately because you're all in the same room. So that was really nice. Yeah, it makes me wish I had more friends.
Yes.
Or I actually played games with you all, because I don't.
I think that's the thing.
There you go. To spin off this existential crisis we're about to start, I'm going to talk about something no one liked. The Nintendo Wii U gamepad. Because
I
was,
that shit.
To me, the ideal game for asymmetrical games. Right? Like, okay, we've done Nintendo Land, and we had that one where it's like Luigi's Mansion. One of us is a ghost. We're invisible on the screen.
Oh,
we can see each other on a small screen. And then the Luigis or whatever have to go and do their own thing.
Man.
That is the most basic idea of an asymmetrical game. Right?
I
that is Dead by Daylight.
I forgot about Nintendo Land.
Always think about Nintendo Land. I think about that. I think about the the Animal Crossing one where you have to control two characters and the other people are trying to steal candies.
Yeah.
There's what else was there? There's the Legend of Zelda one where like you're all working as a team. There was tons of games that was like the gamepad is how you do it. There's not that many that I played because Nintendo kind of shits the bed when it comes to getting good third-party games.
Yeah, they shit the bed with that console.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Nintendo. I don't want to put it on Nintendo not being able to find third-party developers. I think third-party developers just obviously aren't going to put like money into making this. Saying it's a gimmick is a bit harsh, but like but it is just kind of something like completely different from every other game console. So
Nintendo takes leaps and bounds to do something experimental, and
people
other companies like,
they just
I don't know if I want to do this. It's
from a monetary perspective, it's totally untenable. You know, you have to design a completely different game experience. You know, to some degree, not an entire game.
And they just kind of lucked out with the Wii because it was like the most popular game console on planet Earth. But
I knew some people that were like, the Wii U is a different thing, and I was like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, I thought it was just like another piece of a Nintendo Wii.
Yeah, that specifically
like,
is how Nintendo shat the bed with the Wii U. But
yeah, that's exactly how they shot the bed. It was like a complete misstep. Yeah.
One night I go over to my cousin's house. On his Wii U, he has Mario Kart. You can see yourself driving on the other screen, right? Like, but it doesn't zoom into you. It just shows you the screen. It just mirrors the screen.
It just shows all four things.
All four racers. Maybe
That's
I'm
so
not
useless.
seeing it right. I never use it because I'm like, give me the worst controller. You're all under 18 years old. I'll sacrifice for you children. It's not fair if I get the controller. But the Wii U to me was the ideal form of like, I think there was a game called Zombie U that I never played, but it's like you can have people trying to survive, and then you can just be like, spawn this zombie and spawn that spawn like, having a overhead view of the world and like slowly fighting it and doing stuff like that. There's a game that I bought and I haven't played because it just takes so much time, called Divinity Original Sin 2, and it's basically
Classic.
you're being a dungeon master and you can make creatures like on the fly and like do stuff like that. It takes a lot of knowledge to do that. That's why I refuse to start doing it, because I know I'll just lose my life to it. But to me, the Wii U should have been something like that. There should have been a lot of like ideas of like, bring this crazy idea of tabletop gaming and just make it a simple fight this, do this. They gamepad as an objective versus you having an objective, just time based. Fight as for as long as you can. You have to escape.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that the Wii U like gamepad, just because of its layout and because it was like touchscreen, right? Remind me. Yeah. It makes perfect sense to treat that as like a designing platform for like a particular game. So like, you know, putting objectives, putting like other things for players to interact with. That seems like a pretty, I don't know, easy way to design games. But again, it's costly, right? It's costly to make a game like that because it's only usable on the Wii U.
It is 100% that, and it's just
or PC, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot of things of like, how do you justify it as a company, and then does Nintendo offer like incentives? You know, like
Probably not.
you know, Nintendo's probably just like, you're gonna be on this console, we're great, right? And it's just like, no, Nintendo. And then they make the Switch, and it's like, okay, you've removed the multiplayer part of this thing, and you can just go play by yourself, or you can play with another person who has their own Switch and like connect those two. But then it's just like, okay, like that's so much money, but now everyone has one, so I guess it's
yeah. And then they're saying it's like the meme where it's like, yes, Nintendo. I'll get up and go do this.
Whatever you say, Game Freak, Pokemon developers. So yeah, those are like, from video game standpoints, some of the things that I've always felt bad and I missed out on. You know, like it just wasn't as good. The Wii U as an idea was super cool to me. I never bought one because I had a 360. Like, why would I need one when I could play Monster Trucks with Andres? But goddamn, if I would, like, tons of cool stuff.
Pimp My Ride, yeah, classic.
Yeah.
There's other games like Pimp My Ride.
Yeah, Pimp My Ride for the Wii U.
What amazing!
You can spin the
I don't know.
And, like,
can we
add things? There's
we look up
Pimp My Ride game.
Is there a Pimp My Ride
there
for
definitely
Wii U?
is a Pimp My Ride game because we played it. Such an amazing game.
I've never
Manny,
played it, I don't think.
Manny had it at his house.
What? Manny doesn't even remember if it exists.
Yeah, no, I do.
He's saying
I'm
for the
wondering...
Wii U.
Oh,
we played it on the 360.
What is that game?
Oh my god, there's a
God.
Pimp My Ride for the Wii. It's for the Wii
That
as
makes
well.
sense.
It's the same game.
It's such a fucking weird game.
The
It's
PSP version was cited as the worst version of all and scored significantly lower than the other two versions, with critics deriding the game's frame rate, gameplay mechanics, and replay value. Alex Navarro of GameStop described the version as having nauseatingly choppy frame rate. So just like, that makes sense.
It was
Pimp My Ride
such
was
a fucking weird game.
It was a special game. It's a game that like Sneak King, like Bumper, Big Bumpin'.
Big Bumpin'?
Yeah.
Pocket Play
It's like
Racing?
it's one of those games that holds a special place in my heart because not only was I able to live vicariously through all the pimps out there, but I was also able to like experience some of the worst gameplay on the face of the planet.
But you're also able to ghost ride the whip, so it's a trade-off.
Damn, dude, you can ghost. This is the greatest game ever.
Yeah, it's a mini game where you ghost ride the whip and you do like moves. And
It's
wild.
basically just a quick time mini game, and then your character is doing the fucking weirdest dance moves ever.
This is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
There's
in my
one where
entire
you
life.
fucking hit it perfectly, and he still like looks like he's fucking up, and it's just like, what is going on here?
And it all looks like they were trying to avoid the the copyright the copyrighted Crip Walk, because like there are like some moves that like look like they're crippin' and they're not, but
they're trying to get as close as they could without any gang implications.
Did you guys ever hear about like how bad the people suffered after their car was pimped out?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Tell me about that. Do you remember?
I have it on Wikipedia right here. Accusations of fakery on the Pimp My Ride wiki. Various participants who had their cars overhauled on Pimp My Ride have stated that elements of the show were faked. These included cars getting their paint removed and additional litter put in before taping in order to make their starting condition look worse. Cars getting outfitted with elements that were removed right after taping, like a robotic arm, and contestants being coached to act more enthusiastically than they would normally act after their final reveal. Participants have also said that the overall process implied that in the show that to last no more than a few days actually lasted 6 to 8 months. I thought it was like the car broke and like some of the cars like just didn't work afterwards.
No, I think they all worked. I think they just like kind of almost immediately like gotten broken into, or they're just like, I can't do this, or I can't drive this car normally. Like
weight distribution would be a nightmare.
There's 8 TVs in here and I need to drive this to work. Like I can't.
The TVs at the bottom of like the mud flaps were my favorite placement of the TVs in the whole show.
Oh
like,
my god.
Who could ever watch that?
Yeah, they were so terrible. I mean, I remember one where it wasn't like plumbing, but there was something there where there was like water coming out of like a faucet or something. And I was like, this is a terrible idea. Like, why do you need a sink on the back of your truck?
There was one where they removed the seat out of a minivan to make a jewelry making station, like a bead jewelry making station, and it was just like, you love making jewelry, so we put this in your car. And it was just like, why the fuck would I want to make jewelry in my car? Why would I want to be like the most outlandish ideas these people could come up with?
Yeah.
Cars like the movie, my car's like the crib. I got more TVs in there than where I live.
Damn.
You're a rapper.
I'm homeless
drive
and my car
slow,
has a TV in it. Oh my gosh. So to go back to what we're talking about before, the greatest segue, what's it called? Not segue.
The greatest game of all time.
Pimp My Ride. Let me finish the Pimp My Ride reception with this final sentence. Summing up by saying, there is no version of Pimp My Ride worth recommending to anyone, but the PSP version is definitely the one that should be most actively avoided. So if you have to play Pimp My Ride, and its sequel, because it did have a sequel.
Whoa, really? On what system?
The Nintendo DS. Let me find it again.
Oh, shit.
And I think the PS2?
Oh my god, they're going backwards.
This sounds disturbing.
Why would
Pimp
they?
My Ride on the
on
DS sounds so bad.
Pimp My Ride Street Racing, published by Activision, was released in 2009 for the PS2 and the Nintendo DS.
Oh, that must be a precursor, because those systems are before the other one. Unless,
I don't know,
unless
man.
I'm crazy. It says, whoa, releasing, yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm not gonna buy that game.
I'm pretty sure it's probably just like a port down. Like they're just like, we gotta get this for everyone, but we can't put this game where you run over various things on the street to get money and make no sense on the PS2 and DS.
That's I mean, I wonder how much kickback Exhibit got from that. I wonder if any.
Only 0.
That's fucked up.
It's just
damn, dude. Poor Exhibit. You think he plays Dungeons and Dragons?
wait. Are we gonna get into rappers playing games? Because I know Snoop Dogg and T-Pain.
I know T-Pain streams. Snoop Dogg streamed, and there was a part where Snoop Dogg muted himself for like a week like he didn't know he did, or if he did, he just didn't fix it. And so he'd be streaming, and he'd just be like moving his mouth, everything, playing the game, but no audio from him. And people would like lose their minds. And one time he just left, came back 8 hours later. Like he left, got like fell asleep, had breakfast, came back, and was just like, "Oh shit, is this still on?" And he just turned it off, and then it didn't.
There are a lot of good edits of Snoop Dogg because he didn't have like audio. He's had issues where like even his video game audio isn't being played through the stream, so there's only audio of him talking, and people would edit his like Twitch stream with like other video game situations, and there are a lot where it's like Final Fantasy VII boss fights and shit, and I'm just like, I wish I could see a rapper play like some hardcore JRPGs. That would make me so happy.
One of our friends plays Magic the Gathering, and they went to a store owned by like some NFL football player, and he's like a really big deal. And you okay, Manny?
Yeah, I coughed.
Manny was so shocked that people play Magic the Gathering.
God damn it! That happens to me every once in a while, and it always happens in front of electronics. I have like coffee on my microphone and shit.
I'm gonna
That's
go
that
take a
bad
break.
vibe.
I gotta poop. Let's take a break.
Bing bong.
We're back.
We're back, everybody. After a coughing fit and a poop break, we have returned.
I want to remind our listeners not to drink anything in front of your electronics equipment. Anything at all.
You sound like a computer lab teacher.
That's how I feel. Feel like I just went to school. Got taught by the coffee not to drink it in front of my computer.
Okay. I'm going to go to my next part, which is another one of my favorite asymmetrical games, which is any tabletop game where I'm going to talk about how weird it is. You guys have only played with me, I believe, right? Maybe Manny has played outside of it, but I believe that's it. Answer my question, please, and thank you.
I've played D&D outside of our particular setting, but it was like 2013-ish. Yeah,
well, I remember when we first played that one time at your house, you were like, "I like this. I'm gonna start doing it," and you got like into it for like 20 minutes, if I remember correctly.
I was very interested in DMing essentially, but I didn't end up jumping into it until other people were DMing, and I was sort of just accompanying their journey as a player. So
that's very, very common. And Andres, you've only played with me.
Definitely.
I imagine. Yeah, I think I don't know who else would. It's very interesting running it, but I guess from my point, I wanted to make was how unique the game is, and especially each different game. So like, we've all played D&D. D&D is a monster killing simulator, and the hard part we talked about earlier, which was the main point I want to talk about, so thank you for bringing it up, Andres, is balance. If you guys are a level 1 party, I shouldn't put a dragon in front of you, or I should make the dragon smart enough to not want to kill you, or I should make the dragon smart enough to be like, I'm leaving, and I'm not one of those people who wants to just kill you people. Some people just like murdering for murder's sake, and I'm like, yeah, you guys this isn't fun, really. This is kind of sad.
Unless
it could be
your role-playing dungeon meshy.
Oh, that's true. And then you have an NPC sacrifice himself, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go save him because I have an emotional attachment." But I wanted to ask about how different that is. That's a game with an objective: kill the monster. We played Delta Green, and that one was much less clear what the objective was, and it got a little lost. And that's kind of where it's like, oh, this is a bad asymmetrical game because I didn't know it was my first time running it, and it was a lot of rules and et cetera, et cetera. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I had planned. I'm going to tell you guys now because I don't think we'll ever play again now that we're doing the podcast. I planned that both of your characters are going to come back and be the handlers for your new characters. So, like, you guys had faked your deaths. So I remember I killed Andres in Manny's epilogue.
Yeah.
But that was only because he didn't respond because he was talking to David, and that's not his fault. that's David's fault.
Poor David.
And it's fine.
David Banner.
David Banner is Bruce Banner's cousin.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Pretty cool. But that's kind of something I just wanted to touch up on a little bit. I don't have too much, honestly, else to say. I really do enjoy these kind of games. I think they offer a better experience than a standard everyone's equal type game. I think it gives so much more meaning to strategy and depth of like what a game can be. I have no other closing thoughts. This is a very quick one, I think.
I think in terms of our time with Delta Green, it was very asymmetrical in its conception, but I actually really like the freedom that tabletop offers when there's someone leading a game, like DMing essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the flexibility that the medium offers is really like special and unique. I'm like a huge video game head, so like that's my point of reference. And when I jump into like tabletop gaming, it always feels better in terms of creativity, but it also, with that freedom comes like a little bit of anxiety, because you like you have no idea what's going to happen as a player character experiencing a game for the first time. Like, whereas in a video game, in that same scenario, for example, you're going to have a tutorial, or you're going to have something that introduces you into the world. And it's obviously like, you know, here are the buttons you push, here's how you move around the world, etc. Like really, really basic shit. And sometimes it's beautifully integrated into the game, but there's still an element of that. Whereas with like tabletop gaming, the asymmetry of having one person designing the game in real time, that's like a really crazy concept. And I'm not sure how many DMs like actually do this, but because I just don't know enough about the culture, but it seems like it's quite common for people leading tabletop sessions to change things on the fly or to like spontaneously adjust. So I love that element of like the asymmetry of tabletop games. It's something that I wish other video games would do.
It leads to two questions. I'm gonna write them down. The first one I'll say is, for both of you, do you think, and this is just getting more gameplay ideas now, do you think if you were to play a game, do you want there to be a little tutorial first, and then you can create a character? Or do you want the character creation first, and then you play the game? Do you get what I'm asking?
Yes.
I get what you're asking.
Yeah.
I think personally I would prefer a tutorial and then character creation. Especially in tabletop games, just because it's definitely...
And video games too. Video games also included.
Video games also included, but I mean, just thinking of tabletop games specifically right now, it's definitely very much on you to like connect with your character. So I feel like if you don't know the actual concept of the game, then it's really hard to do that. Video games, I think it really helps dictate the way you play the game. So if you are creating your character, you can if you know how the game is ran, you can put your stats and things you think would be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Manny?
Yeah, I share a similar idea. And for me, it's more about like enjoyment of the experience. You know, right? Like I speak from experience from like video game land, but I get so bogged down with character creation being right at the front. I'm like, God, like please, like like I want to design a character I want to design, right? Like that's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's great to role play in that way, but if I don't have any idea of what the gameplay is going to be like beforehand, it's almost a little inhibiting, which I think is why like if for me when I go into a video game and like for example, I'm looking to buy a game, I know what it's going to be like, right? Like I know exactly what it's going to be like because that's why I'm buying it. Or at least I'm interested in what it's going to be like. Whereas with tabletop, it's like a group of people getting together and going and getting into a space ready to play, and sometimes you have no point of reference. I mean, I know D&D is so ubiquitous in pop culture now, but but like even so,
it's still playing it and seeing people play it on TV. Two different experiences entirely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I think that that's like a really important thing. Like for example, if we had a small session of Delta Green before we chose characters, we might have been able to like actively follow the sort of skill and item rules in a way that would have been more fulfilling. Although we just didn't handle it that way at all. But yeah,
I think what Alexi was saying was that was supposed to be the tutorial before we made our characters.
Oh.
Yes. So I come across this a lot with my friends in the D&D community, which are few and far between. They are people who love it so much, and they play with the same group all the time. And I don't usually get invited. Like, this is like a group of high school friends that have been playing for a long time, and then there's me who like I've played with once or twice, but like they have their group and they have long running campaigns, and I come on every once in a while. So I was talking to them about in D&D you have to roll for your stats, and they were like, you should roll and you keep whatever you roll. And I'm like, that is true if you know D&D. The one time that shouldn't be true is in new players. A new player should just be given the numbers, and a stat array is what it's called, where it's like you have a high number, you have a 16, I think a 15, 2 13s, a 12, 11, and an 8. So basically, like, I have a +2, I have a +1, some zeros, and a -1. So I'm balanced. And they were all like, nah, that's stupid. And I'm like, well, for a new person, you want there to be as little fuck up as possible. And like, well, if you get a 3, you should just suffer and have a 3 in your stats. That's a -4 to every roll you make. That is, if you're level 1, completely garb. And I was like, you guys are completely not understanding, like, new people playing. Like, they just kind of like weren't understanding it. And I was like, yeah, this is, I think to get people into this hobby, you need to make as little work as possible. So that's why I was like, here's your character sheet for Delta Green. Pick one. It doesn't fucking matter. Just pick one. Just pick whatever. And if you have a character that's cool, whatever, but don't worry too much about backstory. Just do the numbers. Same thing, I did a new session for D&D. I said, here's a bunch of character sheets. Ask me what class you want to play. I'll explain to you what it does. And then I'll go through it with you every step. I'll take 5 minutes and show you where to roll up your numbers. But don't make up anything. Just take what I give you. And then when you're done playing, and if you're like, oh, I hated being a wizard. Cool. Be a fighter. Or you played a monk and you were like, I want to have magic. Cool. Here's a bard. And it shows you exactly what you're saying. So I think that really does matter when it comes to these games of like, oh, I played Borderlands. What do I pick? Okay, it doesn't really matter. In the end, you're just shooting guns and you'll have a bunch of different passives. And that's going to be fine. Oh, okay, Andres has a turret. I can teleport. And David can punch. Like, those were our abilities. Like, that was it. Okay, that's fine. We're not losing too much. That's about it, right? Like, that was all we needed. But for these games, it's like so much more.
I think that there's like a really something I'm picking up on here, which is that there's a special role that like asymmetrical that's built into the asymmetrical format of tabletop, right? Where it's like there's like a level of guidance too that's coming into it, and you're sort of doing the meta level of guidance, which is like ushering people, real people, into the game space.
Yes.
Yeah, that's super unique. I mean, I know that video games sort of do that, but they're just not flexible enough to actually do that, you know?
And which leads me to my next point, which is what you brought up earlier, and I forgot exactly what your words were, but I've talked about this a lot. And we'll use D&D versus Delta Green. So you were saying something about how story is crafted, et cetera, and how much improv is needed. So I guess I get it. We'll do props. I'll pull out one of my books.
Fresh.
I don't have a prop this time, and I'm usually the one that brings them.
So here's a D&D book, and this has all the information to run an adventure, and it has this is glossary, this is lore. So the book has 140 pages. 140 pages for a start of a story to the end of a story. And you can just read the book and follow it. And I think that's called, to me, a game master driven story. I've written a story. I have something. You are going to be casted in my movie for this story. And you're going to play it. You don't have any decisions, really. That's fine. Not everyone wants to be the lead actor. Some people are just, side characters, or the audience is what I saw Matt Kovo call it, where they're just there to experience the story. But maybe you have a character. Maybe Andres goes, we fought this dragon, and he said something about going to visit the Eladrin cauldron or whatever. I want to go do that. And then it's up to me as a DM to be like, do I take him to the Eladrin cauldron? Or do I say, maybe next time, and just tell him to fuck off? Like, that's it. And then there's other stories, like kind of Delta Green, where there is a beginning and an end, but how you get there can be 100 different ways. And it's more player driven, where it's like, okay, you guys want to go to this area. Fair enough. Okay, I have not prepped anything. I need to lead this information. I need to make a new NPC. I need to make sure she has a backstory. I need to make sure this, and this, and this. So I need to have a complete, encompassing idea of the story and the mystery, so that way, whatever you guys go, it can lead you somewhere. Or just give you dead ends, that way you get it back on the path eventually. And those are character-driven stories, where someone can come up and be like, it's the end of the adventure, we finish hunting this alien, and now it's like, what did your character do in his downtime? What does the character do a month after this event? And it's like, well, I think they completely fall into disarray, they have no connection to their family anymore, and they only care about solving the alien mystery. And then it's like, okay, what about your character? Okay, mine is completely repressing everything. They're in therapy, and they don't believe anything's happening. And then maybe your character goes away for the next mission, and then the character's going crazy, comes back in, and now there's a new character, and then this character, like all of these more character-driven ideas rather than just going into a story. So it's two different ideas I always compete with, and one is easier to do than the other. Me writing a story and forcing you guys to play it is much more easy for me to do than be like, what do you want to play? How do I cultivate your imagination? That way you can do this stuff. And it's like, oh, fuck, dude, I don't know. I just want to punch a dragon. It's like, that's all I needed to hear. Cool. Be a monk. Let's go fight a dragon. And then, et cetera, et cetera.
Funny side note about that. When you were giving the first synopsis of like you were like, they're gonna go to, and then you said like a very high fantasy name that I forgot
the Eladrin
already.
Cauldron?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from Magic.
Yeah. That's pretty good. My mind immediately drifted to Afghanistan.
Oh my god! Like,
I don't know why. But what? So I mean, this is topically relevant. I swear, I'm not just trying to be contrarian here. What do you do in a situation where someone makes an outlandish suggestion like that?
There's points where people have said things that don't work. Like, and there's new things like in the game industry called like the X card, where like everyone has a card and they just like, I'm not comfortable with what's going on. I'm not comfortable with the sex jokes people are making. I don't want to do that. Okay, that's fine. Cool, we don't have to do that. Some people will just be like, I have a friend who made a character, and they were like, I am honor driven. I believe in justice. And then they were like, I'm gonna kill this child. And I'm like, hold on. Like, explain to me your character and why they would kill a child. And they're like, well, they're in the way. And I'm like, so you're honor driven, but if it's impeded in any way, it doesn't matter. You barrel through your mission. He goes, yeah. I'm like, okay, so that means you're a completely different character than what we have decided and talked about. So like, you have to like figure that part out. Or there's other parts where people are like, I mean, I have people say like, I want to fuck the dragon. And it's like, yeah, okay. Why? And there's like, okay, and like, can I try to like seduce it? And I'm like, I'm the dragon, seduce me. And they're like, can't I just roll for it? I'm like, nope. You have to seduce me right now. And they're like, it's like, yeah, dude, none of us want this either. No one wants this. Another time, there was like two characters who explained sex to another character, and it was like the worst experience. I was just like, I'm here. This isn't funny. The DM isn't having fun. These two players are not having fun. The person getting explained, like no one's. People are afraid to admit that the bit sucks and the story's bad. They kind of just barrel through it, and it's just like, God, this is the worst. Like, I completely exclude romance and stuff from my game specifically to avoid those situations.
If you know me, you know I'll fully commit to the bit no matter how terrible it is. So.
I know most people will, and I don't. It's not a point of strength in my opinion. It's okay to say it sucks.
Well, I mean, like, what situation brought that on?
I don't even remember. This was years ago for that one, the sex explanation one.
So what happens if it's relevant? I mean, it doesn't really sound relevant to the story, but what if it's relevant to the story?
There's ways to like tastefully say things, you know, like there's ways to just be like, let's say there is a romance subplot. Let's say that is something you guys want to do. I don't have to role play the sex and stuff. I can just be like, you guys have a nice dinner evening. Tell me what happens. You guys go there. You guys kiss, and then this, and this. Okay, cool. That happened. It's good. That's a part of the story. We're not going to talk about it anymore in detail like that. We don't need to do this. Like it's gone as far as it needs to. And then there's other parts where you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to say like, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't want to do this. This isn't cool. This isn't fun. Sometimes you just kind of have to, like the flexibility is you have to steer people into helping themselves. In a much more generic example, players kind of make their own problems, if that makes sense. Like, okay, we need to break into the house. Okay, but what if they have like a magical barrier, and then the magical barrier does this, and then like we can't cast spells in the barrier. How do we do that? Okay, let's go to the store, and then they go to the store, and then they buy this, they blah blah blah, and then like, roll me a lockpick check. Yeah, 10, that beats it. Yeah, you're in the house. You wasted 20 minutes of your time and my time because you want to do it. But then it's like, do I then go, correct, this was a witch's house and this, and this? Or do I go right before and be like, you've examined the house, you got a good roll, it's an easy house to break. You don't need to worry too much about this. Like, it's the weird give and take. What were you going to say, Andres? I'm sorry?
Players make their own problems is basically just a summation of our Delta Green session.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
no.
It was. I had a lot of fun doing that because I really wanted to play that game, and I have never played with Manny since that first D&D session.
Yeah,
and I've played with Andres a few times. I think my favorite Andres moment was we were playing and someone rolled 3d4s, 4-sided dice, and they got a 4 and another 4 and then a third 4, and Andres went, yeah, like he just like was excited because we got to kill the monster, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing to be excited about, and I'm so happy someone gives enough of a shit to be excited.
I'm all in it for the gambling aspect.
Yeah, I think for listeners, we in Delta Green, we were in a scenario where we essentially skirted around our objective for like 45 minutes of in real game time at least.
Yeah. And I was like, commit to this idea, but this is the consequence. And you guys were like, I don't like that consequence. Like, okay, commit to this idea, but this is the and they're like, I don't like that one. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely, and like the insanity rules, I got completely wrong. I totally got all that wrong. And it was, I think Andres loves a good note of saying like, I didn't make it as clear what the real like the truck was like a big issue. And I didn't make it clear enough, and that's totally a valid piece of criticism because it was just like, yeah, I thought I was doing that, but then there's a point where like a player can totally be like, I'm very lost. Like, can we get some help? And yeah, I think people are again afraid to admit that they need a little help.
And we watched a lot of Jerry Springer as well.
Did we watch Jerry Springer? Yeah, we did
in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
That game's fun. I had a good time. I have people wanting to play it again, and I'm really excited to run that exact scenario and see how different it is with more than 2 people. 1, more than 2 people changes a lot of things, and 2, people who have more experience playing the game and people that have less experience playing it. Like, just seeing how it works. Like that first one I played with Andres where you break into like a goblin nest. Mm-hmm. People have run that one. I've run that one like 4 times, and some things always stay the same, and then some things are different. Sometimes people go right instead of left. Sometimes people go left instead of right, and that changes a lot. And then some people are just like, I'm fucking leaving. I'm not gonna deal with this shit. Blah 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 blah. And they leave.
Yeah, the last option sounds very reminiscent of our Delta Green experience.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely, and I mean, makes sense. Like, okay, your character's going insane. Get out of there. Just fucking bail. And like some things are inconsistent. There's supposed to be an EMP, but some reason this car drives and this car doesn't. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, that'd be cool. That happens. One of my favorite pieces of advice I've ever gotten for D&D was, your villains can cheat. So like, if you have an ability, give the villain the same ability, but without any of the drawbacks, and then they'll be pissed off and they'll want to kill them more. And I'm like, okay, fair enough.
I like that.
Fair enough. I think that's all I really have to say about Express Games again. Super fun, super cool. I think it's very difficult. I'd love to maybe one day force you guys to try being in the DM chair and like seeing how you guys handle it, because it is a lot of power and you do feel cool. But also it is so much work, and I don't want to put that on you people. So I won't be doing that probably.
Yeah, I would. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna do a different conversation, but finish what you were saying.
Oh, I was gonna say that would be really cool. I would love to like DM a high fantasy situation, or I could probably effectively DM something like Delta Green because I love horror. So
I think the Delta Green you'd have a lot of fun with.
Yeah,
there's a lot of gross stuff in there, and then there's D&D is super fun to do. You can just make it as much as you want. Like, you can make a city where everyone has a magic carpet and they all fly, or you can make a city that's like dark, gritty, medics dying and doesn't exist. Like, it's super malleable.
And it also seems like there's a lot of content already designed for D&D. So
there's a lot of content designed for D&D. There's a lot of people making stuff. Well, there's a thing called like settings. Like, just they sell settings where it's like, here's a world, here's all the stuff in it, here's specific classes for this world, it does a lot of the work for you. Pathfinder does it a bit better. I have one book for D&D, that's a whole adventure. Pathfinder does a thing called an adventure path, where every 6 months they release a new book in the same story. So like Giant Slayer book 1, and then for the next like 3 years they have book 2 up to book 6, and you go from level 1 up until right now this podcast into, they're like level 17. And it's cool seeing like one character has like been there since the beginning. Some have been there since like level 4 or whatever, and seeing them like grow and like this grandiose story. And I think all of their adventure paths are chronological. So like if you start one and technically play through all of them, you would have your own world officially made by Pathfinder that you could have like tons of characters. It's a thing I've always fantasized about. Anyway, Andres, what were you gonna say? I can go on forever.
Yeah.
On my drive home yesterday, I was definitely just kind of contemplating my relationship with asymmetrical gaming in general. And I was just kind of thinking about it, and I'm not sure if it got me in like a mildly existential mood, but it was like, I don't know if I really like asymmetrical gaming all that much. It's more of a issue of really high highs and really low lows with me.
Interesting.
I think. Because there's a lot of really fun things that you can do while playing. Like, I think Crawl is definitely amongst one of the more highs in the way it's designed. But there are times like, say, just your average game of Mafia where you're playing with people, or not, I guess it is entirely dependent on the people you're playing with, but
yes,
out of my experience with Mafia, I've just had a lot of games where there are two people talking, the rest of the people are quiet because A, these people are talking and you don't want to talk over them, and B, it's just like, well, what am I supposed to provide? Like, it's a little hard to manage, and in my opinion, just being a villager in Mafia and stuff like that is just kind of super boring.
Yes, 100% super boring. if you're not doing anything. If you're like a doctor and every turn you can do something, and you have leverage. If you have leverage in the story, in the game, you have much more fun. I mean, I've played games of Mafia where like there's like 20 of us. It was like at my church, and it was like great, a big group, and we do the first night, nothing happens, and I would just go like, Emilio, why aren't you the Mafia? And everyone else would be like, Alexi talked first. It has to be him. And I'm like,
yes.
So if I play the game, I'm losing? Right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. And then there's other times where like I'm not going to talk the entire game. And I've literally like sat there and just like forced myself not to speak. And they were like, Alexi, is it you? And I went, shrug. Like, I just shrugged and I lived. I lived the entire game. I think we lost.
And then
but it was just like
always the point in the game where somebody's just like, you're too quiet, you're Mafia, and it's just like, oh my god, like,
yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to do. And I think that's the whole point of this. It's in a video game where everything's balanced and we've had a team of people developing it, and now you get the whole grand scope of it. That's hard. Now here it is, Alexi trying to make up a scenario in Nevada, even though it was not Nevada. I think it was like Montana or something. I think I got the location wrong. And I need to figure out for you two. I don't know the rules. You don't know the rules. We don't know what the goal is. You don't know, like, how do we keep all this juggling in hand? Okay, cool. Make it simple. Just make people talk. Okay, they don't want to talk. Okay, you're talking, now they're mad at you. You're not talking, now they're mad at you. Like, there's no winning, and it's so hard to find the right group of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a element of asymmetrical games that I think relates both to like the Mafia setting, but also relates to Crawl and like other scenarios, which is like how much interaction and active gameplay time someone has, right? Because with asymmetry, where other people have different skills, that automatically means that certain people are going to be doing different things in some way. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if there's a game and it has a particular objective, if the balance is off, someone can be doing way more work than someone else. So I think like even in like a basic setting with like tag, right? Like tag is being like a very simple example, or like hide and seek. Oftentimes, like in hide and seek, for example, there's one person searching for a bunch of people. Well, a lot of those people probably aren't going to be having much interaction with the person that's seeking. They're just going to be sitting there. And so like that's a down point. And I think that speaks a little bit to like there isn't a way to engage with everyone all the time. And there's also a little bit related to like Mafia, where
if you're Mafia and you're just a villager, you, again, nothing.
Exactly.
You're just there to watch the doctor, the sheriff, and the Mafia do stuff.
Yeah. And
like One Night Ultimate Werewolf kind of solves that. One Night Ultimate Werewolf lets you have, like, there's every role has a little thing they can do. Mm-hmm. And that gives you like, hey, I'm just a normal villager, but I know the other villager, so therefore I have a partner. I now have at least one person who knows who I am. I know who they are. And everyone else can do other things, but I have a person, and that's 2 votes. That's a huge deal in the game, rather than just like there's 7 of us, 4 of us are just gonna be swayed by whatever someone else says. I love those games because I don't shut up, so I do phenomenal.
Well, and there's also
until they get mad that I talk too much, and then I do shitty.
There's also an element of the social, right? Like humans are complex. We're complex beings. Our social interactions are complex. So when you get a scenario in which someone is like taking up too much space, it can be weird. There's also, I saw this documentary on not on Netflix. It was like a short 30-minute mini doc on YouTube about
a video essay.
Yeah, it was a video essay. Thank you. Where I forget what company it was, but it was like a video game company, I think. Maybe it was like the Fruit Ninja company. Like, I don't know. It was some company.
I love Fruit Ninja.
Yeah, I know, me too. It probably wasn't Fruit Ninja for the record. but they're like working on gameplay design, like game design and how to make interesting multiplayer experiences, and they based it off of this one online game. So they made a game for their office to play, to test out ideas. And
Yeah.
the way it works is like each person gets certain points that they can use for actions, but people can gift points to other teams or
Is
to
this the
other.
one they're in the office? And there's like different. I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
yeah. So it's a game that's based around like each player is like a tank, and they have like a skill, like an action point that they can use, and they get one every day. And the issue is that social interaction comes into play because certain people can just shove all of their action points to other people. And little alliances start to form, and it got so bad that the studio had to like shut the game down because it was affecting workplace etiquette. And that's like something I think about that video essay a lot because
I watched the same one. Do you remember the part where they said people would like give money away?
Oh,
They would like not give money away.
That.
Like it would be like, Andres, I'm gonna give you $50 for your point, and then later it would escalate to like hundreds of dollars.
Jeez.
For their one action, because if it's everyone has one, having two means so much, and it was just like, they had like someone in the interview be like, I spent money. I'm embarrassed by how much money I gave. I gave people for this game. Yeah, I remember this exact thing.
Yeah, and that sort of thing can come into play in asymmetrical games, and in particular games with other people in competitive edges, right? Like that happens all the time, but I think it speaks a little bit to like the mafia thing where someone can be, because there are different groups playing against each other, that brings in like a social element, and social otherness is super crazy in general. And I imagine like underneath asymmetrical game format, it could just be terrible if it's not handled appropriately, which is, I think, where like responsible game mastering comes into play. You know.
Anders, do you have any thoughts about it before I take over again? Because I have tons of stuff to say.
I have other thoughts on asymmetrical gaming in general, but I'm sure it does definitely have to do more with my personality type, that I have such a issue with things like mafia and whatnot, and just not being able to use that like social interaction to my advantage. But
I think it comes down to competitive versus cooperative.
Yeah,
This is a competitive game. Therefore, everyone is an enemy and a person to like use in Mafia, right?
Yeah.
Well, if we play Dungeons and Dragons, I'm gonna try my best to make sure if it's us three and just you two people, which I think is the less people in D&D the better. 3 people to me is a perfect number of groups. I had a phenomenal campaign with just 3 people. I've played in the game with 9 people, and you just feel bored and useless. So like, then it's like, okay, I definitely have more power than both of you if I'm the dungeon master, but I'm using my power to literally help you and make you have more fun. In Mafia, it's I have more power than you. I'm gonna exploit you. I have more power than you. I'm gonna win this game. And D&D, there's not winning. It's like Manny said earlier, enjoyment. What is the whole point of this? Enjoyment. That's how I view this. That's why I don't make people make new characters in the very beginning. I make it so they do as little work as possible so I can have as most fun as possible. And then if they like it, then they can buy into more rules. They can buy into doing more. But in the very beginning, just let people have fun. Don't make them fight against each other. I tell them that when I'm like, I may be the dragon, but I'm also Alexi trying to help you beat the dragon. So if you have a crazy cool plan, one time someone made a spell that shot like an air cannon out, and then someone was a gnome who fucking like Mario Goomba stomped into the air cannon, fists out, and then they shot them through a devil. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. It won't work. Roll me 2 dice, and if it fucking works, it works. That's how the game should be played. And it worked. And then, of course, the whole part of being a DM is you did that, and now you shot 10 feet into a hole. and now the devil's coming after you because it's still alive because it's a fucking devil. What are you gonna do when you're trapped in a hole with the devil? And it's like, and like creating situations where you can have more fun. While again, Mafia is just kind of mean at times.
Mm.
And I think it also, I mean, I was thinking also my issue with asymmetrical games is that I'd also say I'm a very competitive person. So when it comes, I feel like they definitely bring the worst out of me because of that unbalance that I was talking about earlier. Like Mario Party, for instance, like the 3 versus 1 games.
Yes.
I feel like those oftentimes are the most unbalanced games in Mario Party and the most absolutely frustrating to do because either you're the one person and have way too much power, or you're the 3 people and making it impossible for the one person. Like
there's the one where you're just the people are running on like that big drum, and then you just control which way the drum goes.
Yeah.
In Mario Party 2, and that one's like you can just do like forward back forward deck done, like it's over in 5 seconds. And then there's another one where I think it's like the 3 people are dropping bombs on you, and you have to survive for like 30 seconds, and they can just corner you. Like and it's just so much. Like you always get to the last like 5 seconds, and then you lose, and it's like that was anxiety for about 25 seconds.
And then there's the crane one that I think is literally impossible for the 3 to win. Like
where you're like, I think I beat that one once because it was 3 of us and then an easy CPU. So like, it doesn't even count.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that just like things like that definitely get me frustrated, where I feel like I'm either powerless or where I have that feeling that I'm either powerless or it makes me uncomfortable just making other people feel like that.
Yes. I had a exact opposite of situation of this. When I first played, when you played, Andres, when it was you and Alex playing at my house with 4 other people, you guys played that 1 or 2 sessions. It was when I first started playing D&D in like 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And you were Tuna Sub.
I was
Yagmi. You were Yagmi. Alex was Tuna Sub, which is...
Alex likes to bring up Yagmi, so it definitely gets more credited to him, but may the record show that I was Yagmi.
I had a lot. Basically, I was like in the point where I was like, I just want my friends to play with me. I'm inviting too many people and not caring too much, but not doing enough prep and writing, etc., which is fine. I'm learning. But I remember a friend told another friend, and then they told me, so boop boop me, that I took it too easy, that I wasn't difficult enough, because I definitely wanted everyone to have fun. I didn't want them. And he's like, it was the opposite of him, where it's like there wasn't enough of a challenge, which is very common. You know, like if every decision you make works out in the end for you, like why would I play? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. But then there's the opposite. Now it's too hard. I feel like there's no chance for me to win. Like, what am I going to do? But then that's where, again, I'm supposed to learn and develop and be like, okay, like maybe this should happen and this should happen. And then if they do this, that does secret stuff, blah, 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 blah. Like, and you're supposed to help your people along the way. Again, cooperative versus competitive, and I'm more cooperative than anything, up to the point where it's a fault, where people complain I don't make it hard enough for them, which is fine. You know, I was, again, first time playing, like totally learning and like telling people telling people no on things that didn't make sense. Alex wanted to play what's that one item they use in the musical instrument they use in Ed and Eddie when they're on the boat, or Double D, like
the slide guitar.
Alex wanted to have a slide guitar as his item, and I was like, nah, that's too stupid. And now every day, it's like one of my biggest regrets of really saying no to that. Because it's like, yeah, cool. He wears it in some weird way, and he can play it. Like, that's fine. totally, especially after watching Kung Fu Hustle, I think it is, where they have it and they shoot like the sound. That's so cool. Yeah. More thoughts, sure. I love talking about this stuff. If anyone has more.
This is a controversial idea, maybe,
Yeah.
but I mean, who's to say that like I mean, okay, this is coming from someone who's not active in the tabletop gaming scene, but who's to say that game mastering has to be a sort of nice cooperative experience? Like,
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Right.
Some people love the exact opposite.
mm,
Where it should be challenging, and that's where I'm trying to find that niche part where it is
yeah,
challenging and it is worth it, and that's fair. But I think there is
what?
my example was the counter deep end, where like I know some people were just like denying you your abilities.
Yeah,
should
what?
be-
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, leaning more towards that side of like antagonistic. Like, is
Yeah.
there a precedent for like antagonistic game mastering?
Yes, there is definitely that idea of like, you've come to my table, good luck. Like, I'm gonna do everything I can to kill you. Versus, you've come to my table, fuck you, you're here to die, and that's gonna be cool. And like, forcing things to happen. There's a lot of like terribleness of like sexual violence forced onto a player. And it's just like, what are you talking about? Like, taking players' capabilities away from them in just any way. So like, if we're doing the mafia example, you are the sheriff, Andres, and then except for this one moment, you have no, like, your one ability is gone, and you're just a person, and you get killed. And it's like, well, why? It's like, oh, because I said so. Like the over abuse of power and not letting it happen. Where it's like, okay, there's a big thing of, I think it's in Star Trek. I can't remember exactly the word terminology for it, but Matt Colville brings it up, who's a DM I watch a lot, and he says like, I make the scenario, I don't make their solution. That's not my job. I make this scenario. You're in a crumbling castle. You're fighting a dragon. You can find a way to beat this. There are 4 of you. That is 4 brains working together versus my 1 brain. You can cheese this encounter. Cool. I cast Charm Monster on the dragon. We all get on the dragon. We fly out of the castle. And then I send him away, and hopefully he doesn't come back and fight us. You won. Like, you didn't fight him. You did this. You won. It's amazing you did that. It sucks for me that I wrote all this, did this work, but you did it. You beat me. And not in a way that makes me feel like shit. Like, you solved the problem using your skills. Versus, okay, everyone fails this attack. Everyone takes 80 damage. Now you only have 10 health. Good luck. Fight this dragon. Like, super antagonist. Super trying to just... Again, D&D's not about winning, but they're trying to win. Against their players.
Yeah.
And I think that dynamic of just like being either super competitive or super powerless feeling almost is kind of where I have I hold issue with asymmetrical gaming, because when it's too competitive, I tend to get angry, and it's like, oh, I'm getting angry at somebody for like no reason. I feel like this is not worth my time. Like, or this is not a good use of my time if I'm just mad for no real reason.
Super valid.
And then when I feel powerless, it's like, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm bored now. Like, and being bored while playing a game is very counterintuitive to the reason why I play games.
Yes.
So it's just kind of like, well, why are we playing? Like, we could be doing something else.
Yeah.
And I guess
hard
that's
line.
just finding that balance is where I think a lot of asymmetrical games struggle.
Yes.
And I think one way around that is doing co-op, like you were saying. Like, if you're not pleased with the way the game is balanced, you can at least have fun with people. Like, whereas when it's head to head, it tends to bring more on that angry side that I was talking about.
100%.
where either you're just angry at the game, like why the fuck am I playing this, like, or like even if you're not pleased with the game and you're playing with people towards a common goal, you can at least joke about it and have fun with
Hmm.
your friends rather than just saying like, man, that game sucked, but I'm glad I was able to share that experience with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
AKA
misery
guilty
loves
pleasure.
company.
Yeah. Um, no, I had so much fun. I totally agree with it. It's hard line to find. It's hard line to walk, for sure. And it's why most people are like, I don't want to be the DM. I don't want to be in charge of this. And it's like, fair point. I'll keep doing it, and that's fine. And I love doing it. And there's a subreddit called RPG Horror Stories, and it's exactly this. People like just not understanding how it works, and I mean, there's a long history of like D&D was like kind of antagonized and being satanic, and then just for nerds, and then oh, you play D&D, you don't have any friends, and then like this, and this socially, blah blah blah, and now it's kind of like becoming more mainstream, and now there's a lot more games that are like GM-less too, like it's just basically a board game with RPG aspects, like role playing aspects, and like learning what you want from it. If we're playing a game and Manny's like, "Hey, I've been playing this wizard for the past 5 levels. I haven't had fun since level 2. What? Okay, cool. Do you want to like kill your character, or do you want to just like make a new class? That's it. It's like, okay, you want to kill your character. You go and you fight this guy from your backstory, and like you like just have to like, okay, get out of here, shoot the fireball at my feet, we both die, boom, and then like your new character comes in. Great. We sent off your character, you weren't having fun, you made a new character, we did it together, you have a cool backstory coming up, boom, 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 cooperative, cooperative, cooperative. As opposed to, you're a villager, this other game too. Like sometimes I'm not even playing Mafia, you get Mafia like 3 times in a row, and you're like, fuck, dude, like I don't want to do this a third time. I don't want to have to play 5D chess with all these people. And some of your villagers 3 times in a row, and you're like, man, I'd love to have something to do this game.
Yeah. Mafia especially, I definitely every time I play it come around that like third round, it's always just like, man, why are we still playing this? Like,
yeah, some people really that finding out when to stop playing the game is such a hard line to do. Like even with the board game too, we played this one called Mysterium. It's asymmetrical as well. Like you're trying to solve a mystery through like clues at the there's cards, and the cards are like abstract art, and then you try to give clues through who the person did the murder, for example. So like this card is all red, the murderer has red. I give a red card to Andres, and Andres looks at it and he goes, oh well, there's a gun here, the hunter has a gun, I'm gonna pick the gun. Like it's a very fun game, but there's a point where it's like, we've played it twice, let's stop playing. And everyone I know would always be like, one more try. And then halfway through the third try, everyone like, can we quit? Can we just give up? I don't want to make them feel bad, but God, I don't want to fucking play this game anymore.
I think I just have very low patience for games as I've grown up.
Yeah,
now.
that's very true.
Like I can maybe do 2 rounds of Mafia now before it's just like I'm wasting my time, and I don't want to say anything because everybody else seems to be having a good time, but I'm no longer having a good time.
Jeez. Yeah, no, I get it. It's hard.
I think what I'm coming to the conclusion of is I just really don't like Mafia.
Yeah, Mafia fucking sucks. Oh, I think that's any more thoughts, questions that I can maybe give some insight to from at least my standpoint, and if not, I'm done. I had a lot of fun talking about this. I can talk about this forever.
I don't have any final thoughts. I think I explained it all. Everything I felt. That I guess maybe the last thing I would say is game design's really cool.
Yes.
And there's like a lot of, as we just sort of spent the last half hour talking about, there's a lot of really interesting social implications for like these scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that element of it. So
there's some games that are like intrinsically, there's one called Blades in the Dark. You have a gang. Like you are a gang of like drug runners or like assassins, and that makes like immediately you're a group, You're not like four strangers in a bar becoming friends. You're like, we are linked together, and that's super cool. And then there's other ones where it's like secretly you all have things going on, and that's so fun. Like all these social aspects can come out in different games, and it's super cool to me.
I guess my final thoughts are just
Fuck
asymmetrical. Yeah, that'll be the pin I put in on the episode. Is just a pin note that says "fuck Mafia." I think asymmetrical gaming is very cool and requires a lot of creativity to be able to think of how to create it, which I think is it's admirable, and I really do appreciate it from an outside perspective. From an inside perspective, I've had probably the funnest experiences I've had, like in video games. Like that Splinter Cell Double Agent game was probably one of the funnest games I've ever played, just because I love stealth games, and I also think hide and seek is fun when you have stuff to do with it.
Yes.
But I think it is a lot more popular than you might think, just learning about the concept of asymmetrical gaming, because I think I want to say the majority of games I've played in my adult life probably have all shifted to being asymmetrical
Some
in
aspect
some
of
way.
it,
Yeah. And I don't know if it's me or if it's the game itself, but I just have tended to get really bored of games recently. like just playing and then reaching that point of being like, oh, this really isn't fun anymore. So
I feel so sad for us.
I
know exactly what you're talking about, though. Like it's hard.
So it just might be me. It just might be my personal preference, but yeah, I mean, I definitely have a very rocky relationship with asymmetrical gaming, I should say. Or I will leave it at that. But I do very much appreciate the creativity that goes on behind the scenes for asymmetrical gaming.
So Manny, Andres is no longer invited to our game night. He's going to be doing something else.
Goodbye.
I mean, sure, man. Like, I'll just fucking do something else, and you guys can call me when you're done playing games. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just a crotchety old man now, is what I'm trying to get at. And maybe I've always been a crotchety old man.
You've always been
an
an
old
old man. That's very true. I love games, I'm realizing. I love game design. I could talk about all the different kind of RPGs I like playing. I love this aspect where I get to kind of help people play games and like look for them. I think that's very much my personality. I just want to like show people what I like in a way of like, but not like overwhelm them, not like do too much. And yeah, I appreciate anyone ever playing. I appreciate when people are like, I didn't like this aspect, I don't like this. That's more helpful than just people being like, it was the best in the world, blah blah blah. So yeah, thanks for playing with me, guys. I'm sure we'll play more in the future. But I'm just like, let's do this one, and like just like it's gonna be real fun. I hope so. And yeah, most games are leaning towards at least some aspect of like having unique characters, having this, that, and the other, and just being more fun. From a one-person standpoint, and collaborating and having unique skill sets, making teams of unique characters rather than just all being faceless Spartans and Halo 3 and all shooting guns at each other. But that's all I'm going to talk about for this time. I'm sure I'll find another way to bring this back up and talk about it again. Okay. Manny, I think, do you have a recommendation for us?
So I do, although I'm not that hot on it, but maybe it'll be okay. So my idea for this next episode is sort of branded a little weird. I'm wondering if we can each find a TED Talk that we like and
Ooh,
talk about
wow.
it together. So we each talk about an individual TED Talk. The reason I'm iffy about it is because I have some opinions about TED as like an organization
Yeah.
that I would love to get into, but it's also like totally off brand to be so fucking political about like institutions. I mean, like, okay, maybe not now that I'm saying it out loud, but I don't know. It's not like it's music. It's like it's a fucking, you know.
I mean, I definitely find ways to sneak my political agenda and hating certain things about our society into this podcast. So
Fair. I mean, fair enough. Okay, so then
Smash cut to
the
Alexi finding like a D&D themed TED Talk.
yeah,
We're just
no,
all the
no,
same
let's do
people.
it.
There's a
Yeah,
few I've seen, but I mean,
yeah, yeah.
can I ask now, does it have to be one of those like 20-minute ones, or can it be like one of those TEDx videos where it's like the 5-6 minutes of like talking about this, that, and the other?
Yeah,
Do we
it can
make
be.
our own? Do we have to do our own 20-minute TED Talk about something? 'Cause I just gave
No,
mine.
no,
I
no.
just gave mine. It's not fair that you're doing this to me now.
No. I think it'll provide a really interesting space for each of us to bring something to the table. It's sort of a little different. But yeah, it can be any length of TED Talk. It can be a video or it can be audio, whatever it is. Just listen to it and be ready to talk about it next time.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's real simple. And then I'll give some background on TED and why I am salty.
Fair enough.
So just for reference, are you intending that we send each other the TED Talks that we like, or are we just going to talk about the specific ones we listen to on the podcast?
I was thinking we could talk about the specific ones we decided to talk about on the podcast, like the ones that we chose. Because I'm thinking
don't share it with each other before.
We can, yeah, we can if you want. I
Okay,
don't mind
I think
that.
we should. I think we should be like, here's what I'm going to talk about.
I think.
Oh yeah, that's probably a cool idea. Yeah,
That's the whole point of this podcast.
It would make a little bit better if we at least had the context. Like maybe we don't need to dig in, or maybe we don't even need to watch it, but like knowing what the topic is about and being like, okay, I know what to expect now.
Yeah. Okay. So what if we write up like a really, I mean, because you can't really glean a lot of information from the title of the TED Talk. So if you can find a short description of the TED Talk, or maybe, I mean, I don't know. I guess like let's just send it over, and see what happens. I'm okay. I think that's a great idea. It's actually more in line with what we do. So, okay. So then we'll each find a TED Talk of some kind that we like, and then we'll share it with each other before next week.
We're gonna
Hell
be
yeah.
college professors in the 2010s.
Woo! Can't wait to talk about
Because
some
Lord
communication.
knows I've seen I watched 10 TED Talks in my first year of college, because that was just how certain professors communicated.
I had one
hey, you
professor.
should watch this TED Talk.
I think he was the lead singer of Fish or something. He smoked a lot of weed and then he stopped. And we were talking about weed in our class, and she stopped the class so we would watch a TED Talk about how weed was bad for him and no one should smoke weed anymore. It was the worst experience of my entire college life. I don't know why the fuck we did that. It was so weird.
Yep.
Maybe
but
this will be my way of weaseling in architecture into the podcast.
Well, I think
Ooh,
the reason I'm
volcanoes.
super excited about this, and the reason I thought of it initially, is because I really want to see what topics we bring into the space. You know, what topics we decide to focus on, because there's so much shit that's
I just
covered
went to the
on
website
TED.
and I already found one I've always wanted to learn about. So I'm really excited about this.
Okay, great.
Reading list. How do I do that? There we go.
But yeah, that sounds good. Um. Yep. That sounds like a plan,
Plugs?
Stan.
Plugs?
I bought a new set of plugs that I'm
Ooh, you did?
putting in my ears. Yeah, Labradorite
Were you the
plugs.
one that had the hardwood floor ones? Or was that my friend in high school?
I had like hardwood tunnels. I don't know if that's the same. Like
One dude had it looked like a cabinet.
in his ear. But yeah, I'm getting Labradorite plugs. I'm very excited about it. Okay. I have a plug. It is to be nice to the friends you play video games with, because they are your friends, and don't use slimes on them.
Manny going. The most Manny thing ever was when you were like, "It's a strategy," like a camper, like a camper being like, "Dude, are you camping with sniper?" And you're like, "It's a legitimate strategy, dude. Like that's what they do in real life. This is what you would do in real life. Like, don't get pissed off at me."
I love it. Yeah, no, but you're right. Yeah, that's my plug. Don't kick your friends while they're down.
They should do. This is gonna be an anti-plug ending. Like I think Andres' anti-plug is don't play Mafia.
I will do a plug anti-plug and be upfront with your friends and say you don't want to play Mafia if you don't want to play Mafia.
Communication is key.
Yes. Be a better communicator. Because that's just the general life advice I try to live off of. And
100%.
And Lord knows I'm trying, but it isn't. It doesn't work all the time.
Hardest thing in the world to do. My anti-plug is don't not go outside. I'm gonna keep saying that. Just keep going outside.
Don't not go outside.
Don't stay in too long. Get some sun.
My anti-plug is don't follow the podcast at SUSSED.
Nice. That's professional podcast right there. Follow us on Twitter, which we only have ourselves following.
And like 2 people.
No, it's just us and one random follower.
Oh, so 1 follower. Okay.
We don't even get those like spam like Russian models that are definitely not real people following us.
Yeah. I'm posting though. Lord knows I'm posted.
Lord knows I'm posted.
You're posting quite hard.
I try. It's my goal to usually try to do one once a weekday. So catch my once a weekday Twitter post that either has something to do with the podcast or absolutely nothing to do with the podcast.
There are only 2 options.
I made a D's nuts joke to myself yesterday. So.
Nice.
The most Andres thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, it's very bofa of you.
Bofa?